So the last question is about oscilloscopes. And it shows a trace and it tells you what the settings are. The Y gain is 5 volts per division and the time base 2 milliseconds per division. So the first thing we ask for, calculate the peak voltage of the source. So we can easily tell how many squares the peak voltage is, and we know how many volts each square is, so it's a straightforward matter of finding out the peak voltage. Then it asks us for the RMS voltage, and we can look at the data sheet and there's a formula. RMS voltage, peak voltage divided by root 2. So we use the answer for peak voltage and find the RMS voltage. Calculate the time period of the AC signal, in other words how long it takes for one whole trace. And they're being kind to you there. They could have asked you for the frequency, which would have been more complicated, but it asks for the time period. So the time it takes for one whole trace. And very conveniently, one whole trace takes a whole number of squares. It takes 3 squares for one whole trace. And we know what 1 square represents. So therefore, we know how many milliseconds it is for one whole trace. And the answer at the bottom there is in milliseconds. And then the last bit, we've worked out how long it takes for one trace. Calculate the frequency. In other words, how many traces do you get every second? And the way I would do this, since the time period is in milliseconds, you know how many milliseconds it takes for one whole trace, and there are 1,000 milliseconds in a second. The question is, how many times will this number of milliseconds fit into 1,000 milliseconds? So you divide 1,000 by whatever that answer was, and that will be the number of cycles in a second.